This video discusses topics related to body image, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, thoughts of unaliving oneself, struggles with weight loss and weight gain. If you find any of these topics triggering, please watch this video at your own risk or click off right now.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Joy back with another video, and in this video I'm going to talk about my experience and journey gaining weight, losing weight, just to gain it back, and what I'm doing about it. And the subject is very vulnerable for me, so if you don't like emotional videos or you don't like seeing people cry, I highly suggest that you click off this video because I can guarantee that it's going to get emotional for sure. So yeah, with that said, let's get into the video. Before I begin, I want to say that I know that I don't owe anybody an explanation about my situation with gaining weight and all of that because it's such a personal topic and subject, but I want to be open and honest with you guys because I do put my life on social media, and it's really not hard to tell that I've gained weight. And ultimately, this is something that, despite how hard it is for me, I don't think I should really be ashamed or embarrassed by it, because I want this video to be a source of hope or motivation or inspiration for other people who are struggling in my position. In our society, it's very hard to talk about these things because we have beauty standards, and when you feel like you don't live up to that, it can be very disheartening. It can be very, hard, especially for someone like myself who does social media. I think the first step to change is honestly being honest with yourself and being honest with other people. And I've come to the point where I'm finally able to be honest with myself about the situation. And because I'm able to be honest with myself, I'm able to implement the steps needed to change. And if you see me looking down, it's because I wrote all my notes. So I'm going to talk about my current situation first. So for the last 2 years, I have been struggling with my weight. Unfortunately, I'm at my heaviest weight I've ever been in my life, and it's not good. It's really impacted me negatively in a lot of ways. My weight over the last 2 years has fluctuated up and down because of my numerous attempts at basically like losing the weight and not being able to lose it and getting it back because of my circumstances and my lifestyle. And I'm really not happy with myself at this weight, at this size. I don't even recognize the person I see in the mirror half the time. Like, I don't even look in the mirror because I don't like how I look anymore. The thing is that I don't think that I would ever be able to accept or embrace or be happy with myself ever at this weight. But I also want to say that if you are someone that is happy with the way you look, is happy with your size and your weight, I am so happy for you. I wish I could be the same. This video in no way is saying that everybody has to be thin, everybody has to lose weight to be happy or to be beautiful or to do this or that. That is not what I'm saying. This video is all about me and my struggles, and that I need to change so I can actually be happy. Everyone is beautiful in their own way, and I know that regardless of what size, I'm beautiful, but the problem is that I don't feel confident at every size. And I believe that it's important to change the things that are making you miserable and unhappy for the better, because there's like no point in living an unhappy life. All right, so now I'm going to talk about my struggle with weight gain, body dysmorphia, and eating disorder. This is going to be a large section because I'm going to go from when I was really young to now at age 22, just everything leading up, because it's important for you to understand that me gaining weight was not just out of laziness or that I don't care, I'm just letting myself go. It's literally a host of issues that build up over time that have led me to this position that I am in now. So in all honesty, I've been struggling with my weight ever since I was a child, ever since I was in elementary school. Like, if you look at photos of me when I was younger, I was chubby, I was overweight for sure. And the main reason of that was my eating habits of overeating started to develop when I was younger. For example, like my mom would give me so much food. My mom's way of showing love is cooking food and serving food, and I would eat a lot of dishes, a lot of food, and my mom would serve me rice for every single meal. And like knowing now that rice has so many carbs in it, it's high in calories, and the quantities I was eating was like atrociously large, and that was just normal back then. And I grew up watching my dad eat large portions of food, and I would watch him eat fast food, and when I would be with him, I would be eating a lot of fast food. And restaurants and fast food places in general, they serve large portions, and I got in that habit of overeating and eating fast food and all that. And the other thing that didn't help was that I have a younger sister who just naturally has a faster metabolism than me, always did, and she is taller than me, and she is naturally built slimmer than me, like I would say fat wise and skeletal wise. And it was hard growing up because people would compare me to her. As a kid, like that just destroys your self-esteem, and I feel like in a lot of ways it just makes you feel like there's nothing you can really do to change your situation. I feel like a lot of times when people grow up as a chubby kid, it's really hard to get out of that because that's all you've ever known. Luckily for me, that was not the case, but for a lot of people it is. But the thing that was consistent in my childhood was that I was very active as a kid. I was more of a tomboy back then. I loved to play sports, soccer, basketball, running, whatever it was, you name it, I was probably doing it. And so I love to be fit. I love to be out there with my friends. It was mainly my eating habits that were pulling me back from my, I don't know, full potential or whatever. So this was truly the start of my obsession with food and carbs, like rice in particular, and eating fast food and eating large portions. Another thing that was very rampant in my childhood was that I was going through a lot of childhood trauma. My parents divorced from an early age. My mom had breast cancer when I was really young. And there's a whole host of things that like I could probably never talk about on the internet. When you're young like that, and those trauma and those challenges and those difficulties, they really manifest in different ways. And for me, it was overeating. Food was like a comfort to me. Food became an obsession because I could overindulge in myself when everything else in my life was unstable, and when everything else in my life was crashing down or wasn't there for me, or when there was other things in my life that were not I didn't have an abundance, or I didn't know if I was going to have, and food was that one thing that I could rely on to make me feel better. Food was definitely a coping mechanism for me starting at a young age. When I was in elementary school, I wasn't really insecure about my appearance, so I didn't really care too much that I was overweight. I didn't even know that I was overweight at the time. I just thought I was a normal kid. It wasn't until I got older that I realized I was overweight. When I got to middle school, that's when all of this changed. That's the age that I really started caring about how I looked and how people perceived me and how they thought I looked. And middle school was really the beginning of my struggle with body image issues and body dysmorphia. It's really where I dissociated with who I really saw in the mirror and what I really looked like. When I got to middle school, I actually started running on my own, and I eventually joined my school's track team. And this exercise really helped me to slim down. I think also growing up and going through puberty and getting taller helped me to lose a lot of the weight. So when I was in middle school, I was very skinny because of those two things. But the one thing that still was a problem for me was that I struggled to eat healthy, and I struggled to eat smaller portions. I still would go to restaurants and like basically pig out and like eat large meals. Like if you put a plate in front of me that could feed a grown man, I would be so tempted to eat the whole thing. And I still don't really know why that was an issue for me all along, where I just, even if I'm not hungry, if you put food in front of me, my body feels like, or it's my mind, feels like I have to consume it all. But if you only give me half the plate, then I'm not going to go and look for the other half. It's really weird how that works. But despite this problem with eating, I still wasn't overweight at this time. And the funny thing is, I look back and I look at old photos of myself in middle school, and I remember the mindset that I was in when I was 12, 13, and I used to think I was fat. And I think that that's just because I grew up fat, I grew up overweight, and I think that when you go through a stage of your life when you gain weight, especially when you were younger and you were gaining weight, you have this image of yourself when you were fat, and it carries on. So regardless of how much weight you lose, you always think of yourself as that. I still hated myself at this time. I didn't like the way that I looked, even though I look back and I'm like, I looked completely fine. Being thin and losing weight wasn't enough for me to love myself. It didn't help around this time that I would have family that would comment about my appearance, my weight, my size, or the person that I used to be. And I look back and I realize that a lot of these comments had nothing to do with me, but everything to do with that person projecting their own insecurities on me, which I think was a pretty unfair when I was a kid. When I got to high school, my insecurities and my body dysmorphia and body image issues, they intensified, because now I really cared about how I looked and how other people thought about me, and if people thought I was cute or not, whatnot. But I was able to maintain my weight and stay slim in high school because I joined my school's cross-country team and track team. So I was running like a ton of miles. But the problem was that I was still digesting large portions and a lot of calories. Honestly, I think I would probably like faint if I had tracked the amount of calories I was consuming and saw that now. I would probably faint, but I didn't back then. So we would have these like carb dinners before our races and just pig out, and I would eat like a huge bowl of like pasta like back then, and like it was just so much. Like it was so much to the point that my stomach would like physically hurt. When I was in high school, I would often like snack a lot at like the school like food places. So, and there was also like a lot of kids that would sell chips out of their backpacks. So I would like buy the hot Cheetos like every single week, maybe every single day if I could afford it. And that was a bad habit of mine. Also, when I was in high school as a teen, another factor that was really hard to eat right was that because I didn't have a job at the time and because I was young, I was not in control of the groceries. So it's not like I could pick and choose what I want to eat. Kind of just had to eat what's in the house. Plus, my family would eat out a lot, and like I've mentioned earlier, like restaurants serve large portions, and most of the time I wouldn't put it to go. I would eat it all then and there. And it made it really hard for me to control my eating habits. Plus, it would be hard to like control my eating habits just because of the way my family ate. It's really hard to like diet or limit your portions or not eat as much sugary stuff when you see everyone else in your family eating that. I ran cross country for 3 years. I ran track for 1 year. When I was about to be a sophomore in high school, I almost developed an eating disorder. And I say almost just because I wasn't diagnosed with anything, but let's be honest here, it pretty much was an eating disorder. I was still very much insecure about my body in high school. I think it was probably, even though I was thinner then than I am now, I probably was like more insecure back then. And I was determined to improve my running performance, my running times. And between not liking my body and wanting to become a better runner, my solution was, let's starve yourself to death. And part of the logic behind that was that I would look at all the fast top runners at my school. They were all stick thin. And I felt like I had to look like that to be like that, you know? Like the saying goes, like the less weight you have, like the easier it is to run faster. So the summer of 2015, when I was age 15, I started going on a 1,200 calorie diet. The way that I calculated this was because of MyFitnessPal, the app. That's what it told me I need to be eating to lose the weight I wanted to lose. I don't really remember what my goal was back then, but I'm sure it wasn't good. So most of the time, I was just eating anything I could to hit that 1,200 calorie limit. I wouldn't go above it, but I would not necessarily eat the healthiest stuff. It was like eating hot Cheetos. Like I could eat 2 Oreos and I would be like, I don't know, a third done with my calories for the day. the problem with this diet was that it actually, I think, in a way, negatively affected me, because I think I was underperforming as a runner because I wasn't getting the necessary calories, energy, nutrients, and vitamins from my food. So I was extremely fatigued, and I always felt like I was starving. I remember feeling like I was eating air. 1,200 calories is like literally nothing. I was starving all the time, and the problem with doing that is that's when you binge and you undo all your progress. And that's how I felt 24/7. But it was working. I was dropping weight really fast. And the thing is that I was never satisfied with my progress. I would step on that scale every single day and obsess. Back then, I didn't know that your weight fluctuates throughout the day. I didn't realize that you are your lightest when you wake up in the morning, and water and food and all of that just has an impact on it throughout the day. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with painful Charlie horses, I think that's what it's called, in my calves. So painful every single night. It was an obsession. And I had very little knowledge about any of this. And I had very little knowledge that I was basically harming myself. And I didn't know a lot about wellness or nutrition or how to lose weight healthily. And by the end of that summer, I was about 98, 99 pounds, which is my lightest recorded weight since high school. I was so thin that I had like literally no boobs, no butt, no hips, no curves. And despite all of this stuff, I kept doing my 1,200 calorie diet like that whole summer, and I would have kept doing it if it wasn't for the fact that my parents stopped me in my tracks. One day they took me by the arm and was like, "Why do you look skinny?" And that was a very terrifying moment for me, because I knew that that was the end of me doing this, because they would not let me continue doing it. And I was so far along in that journey, and mentally my brain was just warped because I was obsessed with losing the weight, and nothing was ever good enough. And the idea of having to eat more and gain weight back terrified me, because that's not what I wanted. That's not who I wanted to be. My parents started monitoring me to make sure that I was eating and not starving myself to death. And there was times that my parents questioned if I threw up in the bathroom when I would go to restaurants, because I have this habit where right after I eat, I go to the bathroom, but I go to the bathroom to wash my hands because I cannot stand my hands being like sticky or any of that. But because this had happened right after me getting caught, they were concerned about that, which I never threw up, by the way, because I'm not that dumb. So after this experience, for the rest of high school, I didn't really struggle with my weight, and I didn't really try to do this again. And it wasn't until I graduated and entered college that I started struggling with my weight again. And the reason being is that I really struggled to stay active in college. I no longer had cross country holding me accountable to work out every week. I was just kind of on my own. Like, the most exercise I would get would be walking on campus to and from class. And I honestly found it really difficult to force myself to make time to go to the gym on campus. And it was difficult because I was a commuter student, so a lot of my free time went to driving back and forth to school and home. I had classes, I think, 4 or 5 days out of the week, and then on the other days that I didn't have class, I had a job. And I also wanted to be social, so I tried joining clubs, and that ate away a lot of my time. I was also very depressed and unmotivated at this time in my life. I was very upset with the fact that I was a commuter student, because I had specifically only applied to Cal State Long Beach because I didn't want to commute, and then I ended up having to move like to a city that's like 20 miles away. And I was unmotivated because the major that I had, I didn't really like as much at the time. I wanted to be a theater major, and it really bummed me out because I wasn't really taking the classes that I felt like fulfilled me and that interest me. I really hated being a commuter student. And I think just adjusting to college is really difficult because it can be very overwhelming with all the new changes. And back then, I also really struggled to live a balanced life. I really didn't understand that concept. I was only focused on school and work, and there was no time really for relaxation or hanging out with friends more often or going to the gym. I just felt like mentally I didn't have time for it because my job and my schooling that really like stressed me out. I really think that as bad as my eating habits were all throughout my life, when I got to college, they worsened. Because you have to think that there's so much more access to food, especially unhealthy junk food and fast food, that like when you have more money and you're in college and you have freedom, it's a lot harder to have control. So I was basically eating like snacks throughout the day from like the places on campus and eating food from Subway or Panda Express, from the school cafeteria. I didn't really know how to cook at this time in my life, which also contributed to why I ate out a lot. My family, we didn't really have groceries, so we ate out for almost every meal, and I think that's just because our family just didn't know how to cook. Many days, because I was a commuter student, I would run late to school, so I wouldn't have time to cook breakfast in the morning. So I would like literally end up eating a cup of noodle or a ramen for breakfast. And that was like at least once a week, if not more. I also wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and I was like constantly stressed all the time. My bad lifestyle habits, I wouldn't say they didn't catch up to me until I would say the end of my freshman year and then the beginning of my sophomore year of college. I kind of started noticing that I was gaining weight just because my clothes were fitting differently, but honestly, I didn't really pay attention to it too much. It wasn't until I was more consistent with my YouTube videos and then I saw people actually commenting about my appearance or my weight or my size, and that's when I was like, oh, I gained weight. And I would say that's when it started impacting me. Even if I didn't show that on camera, it definitely did behind the scenes. So the cyberbullying on the internet about my weight, yeah, it was not good. I was 19 when this happened, and even though I'm not that much older, I was 19. And this quickly started my obsession with my weight all over again. So the fall and winter of my sophomore year, so this is like 2019, 2020, I started going to the gym, bought a membership to LA Fitness. That was the other thing. I didn't really have a lot of money to get a gym membership, and I had free gym access because I was a Cal State Long Beach student, but that meant I had to spend money and time driving to and from school just to go to the gym, and I wasn't in a position to do that, and I didn't want to get a gym membership because I knew that it was a commitment. I didn't know if I could afford it because I was in credit card debt at the time, and my job wasn't really giving me a lot of hours, but nevertheless, I got the membership and I started going to group fitness classes like spin and Zumba, and that is honestly what saved me because I fell in love with that. It really helped me become accountable to working out. I also started running again, which was something that I hadn't continued once I graduated high school, but I was constantly yo-yoing from eating healthy in smaller portions to unhealthy larger portions. It was really hard I would do fine when I was on my own, but as soon as I would go to like dinner or breakfast with my family, that's when it was really hard for me to continue those healthy eating habits that I was establishing for myself, because I would see what they're eating, or I would see the portions they're eating or the desserts that they have, and I would so badly want that, and it was so hard for me to just like not want it, if that makes sense. So I kept this up, like working out and trying to eat healthy for the rest of my sophomore year of college, and I really did I started seeing progress with my physical appearance, and I did see my weight drop on the scale around, I would say, like right before the pandemic hit in 2020. In the spring semester, I started going to Pilates classes at school. I didn't really know what Pilates was at the time, but I saw that it helped me get toned, and so I kept doing it. Around March and April 2020, is when I was in the best shape of my life. I guess, well, I should say best shape in college. I had lost a ton of weight and I finally felt confident to some degree about my body. If you've been on my channel since then, you'll notice that around that time I started posting like a lot more try on haul videos on my channel. But despite this transformation, I was still getting people that would comment about my body and say how I was like fat or overweight or whatnot, or try to say I was this number on the scale, which I wasn't. And those things, they, I knew that I wasn't fat at the time, but those things, they still mess with your head when you struggle with body dysmorphia, because at the end of the day, when you have dysmorphia, essentially that just means that you don't really know what you look like, because your mind plays tricks on you and it teaches you that you're bigger than you actually are usually. I literally would not, like, if I filmed a try on haul video in the morning, I would not eat until that video was completely done, because I was so scared that I would eat a crumb and just bloat and look fat, and people would say something about it on the internet. And so it would be like 2 or 3 in the afternoon and I was like starving. Like my stomach would actually hurt and I would start to get headaches because I didn't eat anything. I did all of that so people wouldn't call me fat, even though I wasn't. At this time, when I was a sophomore in college, I was weighing in at about like 120 pounds range. I was more confident for sure, but I definitely wasn't at the place where I wanted to be. Because even though I was slim, I wasn't necessarily toned. I hadn't yet introduced strength training into my life yet at this time. The reason why was I was so scared of lifting weights because I didn't understand it. So I just stuck to cardio, and then like one of my biggest fears happened and it came true. After I had literally lost all the weight that I had gained in college, COVID hit. The gyms all closed. And I was scared. I was terrified because I relied so heavily on the gym. I relied so heavily on the group fitness classes to keep me accountable. And now I couldn't. And I didn't know what to do at the time to keep my progress up. And I was really terrified of like undoing everything. And I didn't know when the pandemic would end. And it's funny because it's like, this is 2 years later and it still hasn't ended. Wow, that actually sucks now that I think about that. So I bought workout gear from TJ Maxx and I started running and doing like Chloe Ting workouts. I was running like 6 miles every single day, and luckily this allowed me to maintain my weight. But then another thing happened in 2020 that was pretty traumatic for me. Was my dad said that he was going to move to Hawaii. And I've already talked about this on my channel, so I'm not going to continue talking about it. But I chose to stay in California and moved out of my dad's house by the end of July of 2020. And I started working full-time. I started going to school full-time. I was supporting myself financially. And I no longer had the time or the energy to work out and have time to cook or to get groceries. So I started eating out more, and during this time I was extremely depressed and very suicidal. I went through a lot. I don't really consider a lot of my growing up very fun, but I would definitely have to say that 2020 and 2021 were really bad years for me. They were really tough. Really tough. My poor relationship with food was really showing at this time. I had never hated my life more. I had never hated myself more. I had literally no positivity or optimism in me left at this time. The pandemic didn't help. It was very unmotivating. I literally just felt like I was existing, not living life. I couldn't see my friends. I had financial issues. I moved out with thousands of credit card debt. I had to figure out how I was going to pay for school. I had a Jeep that was not paid off, and I had a Jeep that literally would break down on me, and I had to pay for that. I had relationship problems, and at the time I wasn't really getting along with my family, and my family was all far away from me. And then my acne breakouts just started happening. I've always been acne prone from a young age, but I had controlled it, and then everything was happening all at once. I was really struggling at this time in my life to balance all my responsibilities. When I was a junior in college, I was very overwhelmed. I was overworked. I was exhausted by the tasks of my everyday life, and I got very little sleep. And often I would skip breakfast. I would starve at work because of this, and as a result, this would cause me to binge and overeat at dinner or lunch. It was a toxic, endless cycle that I had no idea how to break. I started noticing the weight gain during the winter of 2020 and 2021. I stopped posting on social media as much, not only because of my busy schedule at the time, but because I hated the way that I looked. I'm very consistent on Instagram, and I have been since, I would say, November, December of 2021. But if you look at my Instagram from 2020 and 2021, you'll notice that I rarely posted. And that's because when I would take a photo of myself, it would make me want to cry. Between gaining weight and my acne, it was so bad. I just didn't want to look at that. And it was hard because I'm over here trying to be a social media influencer and content creator, and you have to like the way you look. You have to post yourself. And I couldn't do that. Every time I looked in the mirror, I wanted to cry. So many days I would just go to the bathroom and not look in the mirror at all. None of my clothes fit because I bought them all when I was at my thinnest. And that ruined my self-confidence. I had nothing to wear, nothing to post, and I didn't have money to buy new clothes. Between my acne breakouts and weight gain, I no longer felt like myself. Once the spring semester of my junior year ended, I told myself to start working out and get in shape again. So this was summer 2021, right before my senior year of college. I repurchased my LA Fitness membership, and that was the other thing. The school gym, I think, was still closed all throughout 2021. So I started going to group fitness classes again, like spin and Zumba, and I also incorporated power circuit, which was kind of my introductory to weight training, just at a lower level. I started running several days a week at Signal Hill, which is like this hill course that we would run in cross country in high school. I did Chloe Ting workouts and Blagalati workouts to start strengthening my muscles and toning them. At this stage, I still wasn't really quite ready to actually do weight training in the gym. I was very much scared, and I have gym anxiety. I did more research at this time to tackle ways to tackle my weight loss, so learning about BMR and just different things that you can do to help you lose weight. So I calculated my new calorie deficit. So instead of doing a 1,200 calorie diet, I was on a 1,600 to 1,700 calorie deficit. And I knew my BMR, and I had calculated everything to a science. And I actually started losing 2 pounds a week. And that was consistent for several months, on the spot, 2 pounds every single week. But as soon as the fall semester of my senior year hit, September 2021, my weight loss hit a plateau. And this was really hard for me because I didn't know how to navigate it. And it was also very depressing because I had went several months with so much success and progress just to not go anywhere. My weight on the scale was not going up or down, and I really didn't know what to do. I couldn't decrease my calorie deficit because it was already low, and I would be in the territory again of eating a 1,200 calorie diet and starving myself to death. My biggest fear was basically binge eating because of those habits. My senior year of college started off very rough. It was very emotional for a lot of reasons. I tried to keep working out and eating right, but it was really hard to keep up. That summer, 2021, was when I first started buying my own groceries for the first time. And this helped me monitor what I eat, and it helped me control my portions. I really couldn't do this when I was at my boyfriend's family's house just because I was living in their house and I didn't want to take up space in their fridge. August 2021 was when I moved out of their house and I started renting a room. Started grocery shopping way more, but school, work, pink wrap responsibilities, my honors project were all taking over my life and eating away at my free time. So those bad eating habits and lack of exercise started resurfacing. I was eating out a lot, usually late at night, and I wasn't getting any sleep. And this was the case because I would have to, even though I would do schoolwork at work, even though I would do schoolwork at school, I still had so much that I had to do when I come home that after I was done, I didn't have time to cook because it would be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and I had to get up early the next day for work or school. So I would just go out and eat fast food. I was constantly fatigued and tired. I was constantly stressed, depressed, anxious, and also at this time of my life, very suicidal. I did not want to be here anymore because I was so miserable in my own body, and my life. My circumstances were making me so upset. It was very depressing too because I felt like a failure. I felt like, I lose the weight in 2020 just to gain it back. And the same thing happens again. Even though I didn't lose as much weight in 2021, I still lost like a decent amount, and it was very depressing to just undo it again for the second time in a row, for the second year in a row. So later on in that semester, so the winter time of 2021 in my senior year, I spent about $300 getting a personal trainer at school. And I would continue to see this personal trainer on and off throughout my spring semester of my college year. And honestly, this was one of the best decisions that I had made for myself when it comes to fitness and wellness. This personal trainer really helped me overcome my fear of strength training. I learned a lot. And for my last semester of college, I decided to take several kinesiology classes. So I took surfing, strength training, and mat Pilates. And these really helped me stay committed to fitness. These classes also helped me learn more about things such as technique and health, and I really fell in love with Pilates, especially. And even though I was actively working out, I knew quickly that what I was doing wasn't enough to achieve my goals physically and fitness-wise. And that was very depressing. At this time of my life, as a senior in college, my spring semester, so this is earlier in 2022, I did not have a single day off from work or school. My last semester of college was very busy and hectic. My honors documentary project was ramping up, and my pink rep job as well was ramping up. And my social media hobby, I started taking it more seriously, and I did not have any free time to work out outside of all of these things, and outside of my workout classes and my personal training. So this past spring semester, I was at a point where I just had to accept the situation for what it was. I couldn't change the fact that I had to finish school and I had to pursue it full time. I couldn't change the fact that I had to work and I had to provide for myself, and I couldn't change the fact that I couldn't decrease my hours. I was still having to be a Peen Campus rep. I had to finish my honors project. And if I want to get anywhere with social media, I had to keep pursuing it. And my social media stuff really took a decline over the last 2 years because it's been put on the back burner to just survive. And it was really hard for me. It was very depressing. It's really hard to choose between getting things done and taking care of yourself. And I had to do that. And so I really want to stress that this struggle that I've had with college and my weight and working out, it has nothing to do with being lazy. It has everything to do with lack of time and not being in the optimal situation to take care of yourself. It's easy to work out 7 days a week and eat healthy and cook and do all of that when you don't have to worry about surviving, when you don't have to worry about putting food on the table for yourself, when you don't have to worry about working or going to school. And even though I hated that I had to accept it at the time, I told myself that this is a temporary situation, that, life will hopefully get better and that I won't be juggling as much stuff. And that is what kept me going, because it was really hard. It was really hard to just suck it up. I always told myself, when I graduate, I will take care of myself. I will focus on myself. I told myself that summer 2022 was when I would make a lifetime commitment to health and fitness. At this point in my life, I was so tired of eating crap and feeling like crap, and I was ready for a change. May comes around, I graduate college, and May was a very crazy month, and I didn't get the chance to start working out until June 2022. And as soon as I started working out, I got COVID, and I couldn't go to the gym for 2 weeks. And as of the last week of June, I'm back at the gym. I'm back running and doing mat Pilates, and I'm trying to be on a healthier diet. But I'm going to be very honest with you. Even though I'm not a student anymore and I don't have that struggle and it's not as stressful now, it is extremely difficult to still live a balanced life because I work 32 hours a week at my job. I have 2 paid side gigs that I make content for brands, and it takes time out of my day, out of my week. I'm pursuing my own social media full time, so hopefully I can make it a full-time gig. And on top of that, just doing daily chores and errands and working out an hour and a half to 2 hours, 5 days a week, it's really hard. I found myself in the situation where I'm not getting sleep, and some days I either don't work out or I don't create this video content or I can't hang out with friends, and it's really hard. And that makes me sad because I looked so forward to the future of being able to have more time, and sometimes it feels like I don't have more time. Sometimes it feels like I'm still working around the clock, and it just makes me sad. Now I want to talk about the important lessons that I've learned from this entire experience. I think the biggest lesson that I think I learned, and I think it's the whole reason why I went through this experience anyways, is that I needed to learn to love myself at this size, or otherwise I would never love myself. I've really learned to love myself even though I don't like the way that I look. It's really hard to explain. So what does that look like? Well, there was a point when I was like, do I keep posting on social media or do I stop? I'm embarrassed by how I look. I don't want other people to see me looking like this. But then that's counterintuitive to my goals of, having a social media presence and all of that. And so I just told myself, just keep posting. As vulnerable as it is, as hard as it is. And that really helped me to go on this path of loving myself and understanding that I deserve respect and love regardless of how I look. I basically wanted to put my life on pause, mainly because social media made me feel like I needed to be perfect before I could ever pursue it. I needed to go through this experience because I needed to learn that fitness can be enjoyable. When I was younger, I saw working out as something that I had to do in order to achieve my goals, not something that I wanted to do. It was miserable and I hated it so much. But at 22 years old today, I have fallen in love head over heels with working out. I genuinely love it, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's just because of everything I've gone through or because I'm older. I needed to go through this experience because I needed to learn that eating healthy is only healthy if there is balance. Back then I would starve myself and deprive myself of the good things in life. And now I know that I learned that I need to honor my cravings occasionally. I needed to learn how to understand my body and all its quirks to better tailor my fitness plans and goals to align with it. I needed to go through this experience to learn to be disciplined and take control of every aspect of my life. I think one thing that I thought about through all of this was, how the heck am I so disciplined and organized when it comes to every aspect of my life besides my health, besides the most important thing in my life? And that's when it clicked for me. If I can go through school full-time, work full-time, and graduate, then I can lose the weight. I needed to learn more about strength training and nutrition overall and weight loss as well. If it wasn't for all of this, I don't think that I would be here making this video and talking about changes in a healthy manner. I would have never learned these lessons. Instead, I would probably be making excuses for myself, comparing myself to others, and complaining about how other people have it easy. So now I'm going to talk about what I'm doing about my weight gain. So first of all, the goal, the plan is to lose the weight. It's going to be a long journey because I want this to be a commitment. I want this to be a lifestyle. I don't want it to just be a fad diet that I end up undoing. Like, we've already done that twice. Like, we don't need a third round, okay? So it's going to take several months. I really want this to be my life. I'm at a place now where it's actually what I want. You know, back when I was younger, I wasn't as mature, and I still craved like the junk food and fast food and all of that, and I couldn't, the thought of like living without it was very scary. Eating healthy is like literally what I want. Like, junk food and fast food, even though I indulge in it sometimes, it makes me sick thinking about it. Like Jack in the Box, like, ugh. I'm incorporating strength training, mat Pilates, and running in my routine. Strength training, I'm doing that 3 times a week. I'm running and doing mat Pilates 2 times a week. I am also choosing to limit my portions and eat healthier alternatives. I try to cook most of my meals. And I also honor my cravings occasionally, but I think I will track my calories. I'm trying to go for a lower carb, higher protein diet, and I'm trying to get more sleep and drink a ton of water. But it is still hard to try and balance a healthy life as a working adult. So make sure to follow me on all social media channels, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, for fitness updates and life updates. If you're also struggling like me, we got this. Let's hold each other accountable. You know, it's not impossible. It's hard, yes. But as they say, nothing in life that's good comes easy. So this is my story. At the end of the day, this is not just about physically how I look. It's about my health, you know. I want to be strong and be able to move and jump around when I'm older. And I want to have muscles when I'm older. So that means I have to do things now while I'm in my 20s. So yeah. Well, anyways, thank you guys for listening to this video. Sorry for getting a little bit emotional, but I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!